Hi Elias, hi Momoyo.
Hi.
It's nice to see you again. We got to know each other at ETH Zurich, but I had heard already about your work through the Toto Gallery, for example. So when I heard that you're a professor at ETH, I was super excited that you were bringing all of this knowledge about Japanese architecture and about your work to the ETH community. Maybe you can say a bit more about how you do reuse in your work and how this influences.
Okay, so I and Yoshiharu Tsukamoto, so my partner, established our farms around 1991 or 2. So Japan was totally confronting the bubble economy after the World War II. I think architects lost many jobs before we come in. We are students and we have no money. We have a lot of time so at that time. And then we started to read, make some result as architecture without architect, kind of. So like made in Tokyo, we called. I'm always interested in about ordinary architecture, and then I'm very happy to walk on the street, like in Tokyo or some other countries, and observe the building. It's really my also profession, but also almost a hobby. And I'm asking to myself, so why this building something like that?
Yeah.
So there's observing and understanding through the building to how people design to the form of the architecture, but also how people live. We could read also a lot of climate issue, economical issue, or political issue, a lot of things. I like also the architecture with architect, but I really like also architecture without architect to understand the situation.
Even before I was an architect, when I was still in high school, everywhere I went, I was just looking at the buildings because I was constantly looking, why is this facade built like this? And I was always interested, how do we build buildings in other cultures? Going to Japan was one of the countries where I learned most from the architecture, because there were so much things about reuse and circularity that were inherent into the way that was designed there.
It has been great to enjoy your classes from 2018 and afterwards. I enjoyed also very much the master thesis with you and the courses that we were able to teach together afterwards. How was this process for you in hindsight?
Good question. Let me think. Yes, at first you joined to our studio course. It was focusing on the Japanese window, no? Like in Kanazawa.
Timber behaviorology.
Yes. Timber is not forever, no? Like timber should be replaced time by time. So if it was damaged, so just cutting some part, not the whole thing, but like a bit kintsugi style, no? Like we fill in the damaged part to the new wood. So that's all. So that is very simple. And also we need to clean up every day, or like maintain, and then also to make a ventilation. And also dust it to take it out in every year. So this kind of maintenance is center. Also the timber is very interesting. So most of the timber is coming from the mountain, and then always the river distribute. So river is also the part of the highway. If we follow up to the river side, we can see the different scale of the building, but also production and so on. So I also asked the students, making the actor network drawings related to the different actors, and not only the material, people, skill, and place, and a lot of things. So that is always I try to teach him, and also the other students. And also when I was starting the architecture studies, one very important book was republished by Fujimori Terunobu, so a Japanese historian. He focusing on the Wajiro Kon. So he was an ethnographer. He made a lot of nice drawing on the Japanese life. Many of them we still keep, but many of things we lost. But when we visiting the Wajiro Kon books, I could also understand how they had a rich culture, and then what kind of things we can also bring in today. So one project is called the Moth House. We wrapped with polycarbonate material to wrapping the one side of the building to create summer garden spaces. You know? So with getting the lot of sunlight into the bring to the heat in a house. After that, we started to also more started to use directly the material itself, so. And then sometimes the leftover material or unused material, so we collect them to make an interior, for example. It's also very limited cost. So.
So you're doing reuse, not for the purpose of reuse, but just because of cost reasons. It's just cheaper to reuse materials and you have a limited budget, and also because you have this network of people you interact with and you know of them that they have materials available for reuse.
Of course, this cost problem is created, so we have to more manage to the clever way to get it. If you take this one or if you take this one, what kind of narratives can be in the project?
Yeah, I think when I arrived at ETH as a professor, it was in 2021, and they've told me that many architecture professors had already tried to save the pavilions and so on, but the decision to demolish the pavilions was already made before I arrived. But my work is about reusing building materials. I had disassembled several other buildings that were set for demolition with my students before, and I was thinking, why don't we do it on the campus, where we disassemble together these building materials and then rebuild something elsewhere on the campus, and where we can use this as a learning opportunity. And I think in parallel, you were doing your master thesis about this question. I was talking to Barbara Boozer, because I know that she had taught also her studios on reuse in the Huber Pavilions. This is how we all got connected, I guess.
Over this master thesis and also courses that came afterwards, you also worked alongside with many different stakeholders from ETH, from contractors to students of different departments. How was this experience for you, having the actor network on the drawing, but then also the real experience with these different actors?
Yeah, I and also Frick present, so and also Charlotte and Greg was also some team. So we are working on the informal learning space project. So the same parallel, the same period. I'm also very curious to bring the students to not only the rural area, but also in the real context on the ETH campus, because the ETH campus itself has also very interesting resources or like spaces to understand the better ways. No? This study is also starting from the drawings, actor network drawing, to understand the situation, and then after the one-to-one mock-up to testing the some cases on the site and to understand the future project to coming after. So, and this test we call the social experiment. I used to also work on the several town management projects, so I had also experienced how to coordinate this workshop, to integrate many stakeholders to reach some goals. So I think also the people can enjoy the architecture culture in their daily life. It's a part of the member, from not only the architects. The architects can be more, or designer can be more leading this kind of discussion. Yeah, when I met you, so it's very I was also very impressed what you try to do. You know, you are I think activist. I understand that you are activist and also entrepreneur. So to create a new business or create a new model of the society. So now the young generation of the architect in Japan, or like maybe in Europe slowly, so they also become the new kind of entrepreneurs, so to create a new business things, because otherwise they need to just receive some commissions from outside. And also I always, some of my team or young architects who I taught them, so like, why not you start to create a new business or new start action? So in not only the urban context, but also back to the hometown.
I always try to motivate my students to when they finish to maybe create their own business or having at least this entrepreneurial spirit. I really like teaching also because I feel like the new generation of students is very activist as well, and they really challenge me also. There is this possibility we can do anything, and the students really take this opportunity to do something better for the environment, for society. And I think that was exciting about your focus work and our course. It was this design competition, and then we actually picked a few elements from the designs and we built it with the students.
Yeah. That comes from my also the students period. Yoshi and me did one competition, and then small rural areas of vegetable kiosk. I was 21 years old, 21, long time ago. And then when I was going to there to meet local university teachers and his students. And then they were trying to judge us coming from Tokyo to just order them to how to work. So when I arrived to the bus by bus to this square, like we went to the toilet to change our clothes for like a bit of construction working costume, and then so back to come to the in front of them. So and they are totally so convinced what we are, our attitude, and then they helped us to whole week to realize our process. It was a really good experience for me. I still appreciated this Professor Katsura. So he how he taught to us to the architects should be there. So.
What do you think is the benefit of this hands-on work? You were also present during these 6 days of construction and making decisions on site with students and engineers and contractors. How do you think this circular economy changes the design process and how it affects then the construction site?
I think, of course, if we are working not by our hands, we also find our limit of the skill. No? For example, in Japan is okay. When we coming to the construction site, we say so like a greeting, and also say hello to the carpenter, and also the asking to the like something like a problem and thinking, and communication is also very so helpful for. Maybe so this time so like a Huber Pavilion what we design, so that also like still some part of the buffer, no? Like and we had a very nice discussion about the joint.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because the student already proposed, but I'm not so convincing somehow. I also tried to ask them the meaning of the joint and also represent of the project by the joint. Finally, so we reached a really good solution. And also we could lead some methodology of the design of the reuse, how we can propose to the society. No?
On the construction sites, we ended up using some wooden boards that were already a bit weathered by the outside, and it had such a beautiful color after a few years being outside. And then the students wanted to paint it. I think they wanted to paint it red initially, but we wanted to let the students, come up with the design themselves and come up with the discussions about why would they paint it, because we're doing also work on reuse. Isn't this weathering also something beautiful to show? And it's also how wood naturally protects itself. After that, after we finished the course, I traveled to Japan for the research I mentioned that we're doing together with Guy Nordensen from Princeton, Jordan Sand from Tokyo University, and Sen Kwan from Harvard on the Ise shrines. What struck me when I was visiting the shrines was the way they chose what to paint and what they don't paint. I recognized our project in the Ise shrines. Of course, it's the other way around. But for me, it was like, oh, wow, they're doing it like we did. Oh, but that's because we're doing it like the traditional Japanese architecture. And I thought that was super cool that they, through this debate and the space that we gave them, that they learn this really in a very hands-on way, right? And then it becomes more of a a conversation connecting all of these stakeholders with each other. So we're doing also this book and this film to share it, also what we learned beyond the campus. Thank you so much
Thank you very much.
taking
Thank
the
you.
time
Thank you.
to
Thank you.
chat with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Momoyo.
Thank you so much.
And we brought a small little
Ah,
gift
yes.
for you
Oh,
also.
okay.